I got an interesting question, and today I'm going to focus on the part where it says how you deal with non-creative moments when you don't know how to visually solve a problem. And I'm going to expand on that about creative block. So yes, today we're going to talk about how to beat creative block. Hello, I'm your host Casino. I'm the Digital Alchemist, and today we're going to talk about how to beat creative block. I've been in the creative industry for a while, and I believe I have a few tips that can help you deal with that. But before I answer the question, I think it's important that we clarify what we're talking about. So if you're talking about some inspiration for a very specific project and you don't know where to look, that's one thing. And if you're talking about the creative block that we've all been through, unless you're a total beginner, but if you're talking about the creative block where even if I gave you the best inspiration on earth, you wouldn't do anything, that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, if you're interested by the first option and you just want to know where to find some good inspiration, well, one place you can start is here on this channel. Just look at my inspiration playlist, web design inspiration playlist. But also, if you want actual websites where I go to look for inspiration, let me know in the comments and I'll create a video just about that. So with that out of the way, how do we beat creative block? 1. Identify your mental state. Now, you may be telling me, Kay, what are you talking about? I know my mental state, right? Or do you? So let me tell you a little story. So the day of recording this video, I woke up in the morning and something was off. You know, I have one day per week where I try to dedicate that day to video and YouTube. And when I can do more, I do more, but I try to stick to at least one day where I do that. And I could feel something was off. So I didn't know what it was, but something was really off. And at the same time, I was expecting a package because there's some piece of gear I need to make my work easier. So basically, I was waiting for that. Cut a long story short, the delivery guy came and actually he just did a U-turn. He didn't even stop, and then he just dropped the paper in the mailbox saying that I was not at home when I was. So I was furious, especially because that was like the second day in a row. And you know, when you're waiting for something because you need to complete something, it's starting to get a little bit nervous, and especially when it happens 2 days in a row, and especially when it's not the first time, I can tell you I was so angry. So eventually I was lucky enough to be able to get the package. I had to go to the post office, but usually it's like a couple of days after, but I managed to get it the same day, but I lost 2 hours in the meantime. So I got back and I had to work on the video, but also I wanted to allocate one part of the day for a website design that I need to finish. And when I got back, it was nearly impossible. I had no video ID. Whereas, you know, I have some topics that I prepare in advance, but sometimes I also like to improvise. But even the topics that I had prepared in advance, I didn't feel like talking about it today. I didn't know what to talk about. Usually I try to prepare before the day where I shoot, but it's not always possible, especially now at the end of the year when I'm trying to wrap up everything so that I can spend some quality time during the holidays. So I decided to stop for a second and actually do what I'm telling you to do right now. I started to try and identify my mental state because, of course, I knew I was angry because of what happened. But looking back, even before that happened in the morning, something was already off. And I realized that I have a lot of stuff on my plate because, like I said, I'm trying to wrap up everything like in the next couple of weeks so that, you know, I can really enjoy the holiday time like everybody does. And somehow in the back of my mind, I knew I was running out of schedule. And I can still do it, but I know it's going to be really tight. And I was already stressed out. That's the truth. I was already stressed out. So when that thing happened with the delivery guy, that made me really furious. But my mental state was already stressed out before that. But identifying my mental state is part of the solution. Actually, it's the first step of the solution because we're going to use that for our next point. But before we move on to the next point, once I identified the mental state I'm in, and in my case, I was stressed out and I was angry. So I was also nervous, but usually, you know, they go along really well. So once I identified that, at least I knew that I had to give a specific answer. I had to do something so that I could go back to a relaxed state. Now, this may come to you as something that's really obvious, But bear in mind that I was in that state, but you could be in a different state. You could be really excited about something. Maybe you're waiting for something that you've been waiting for, I don't know, months, years, and you're going to get it and you can't take your mind off of it. But at the same time, it brings you creative block. So that could be a totally different state. But once you've identified the state you're in, you need to think about what you're trying to achieve. So in my state, I was trying to get quiet, calm, and maybe laugh, be in a relaxed state. But maybe in your case, you're totally slowed down and actually you need to boost yourself up and you need to stand up and do something, get some energy. Okay, so you get the idea. So now once you've identified the mental state you're in and the response you need to come up with, we can move on to our next point. And our next point is change the frequency. What do I mean by that? Well, just imagine that you're listening to radio. I know everybody's listening just to podcasts. Well, it could be a podcast. It doesn't really matter. But for the sake of the example, let's say you listen to the radio and it's a channel you really don't like. It's the kind of music you don't like. So what are you going to do? Do you keep on driving? And of course, I'm imagining you're in a car, but do you keep on listening to that radio station that you don't like? Or are you going to change the frequency and tune into something you enjoy? Sounds obvious, right? Well, the truth is, in our day-to-day life, we don't change the station when something goes wrong. We're nervous and we're even more nervous and everything seems to be going really bad. So you need to change the frequency. Okay, but how do you do that? And before I move along with this video, don't worry, this is not some really mystical things. This is just common sense. So how do you change the frequency? So in my case, I decided to start doing stuff I love, like watching some YouTube videos from my favorite creators. Then I started playing some games. And I used to be a gamer a few years ago, but then for the last 3 to 4 years, I don't play much anymore because I'm like hustling. But that hustle culture, I get it. It's good when you're trying to achieve something, but you only get one life. You need to spend time also doing stuff you love. So I'm not talking about sitting on the couch all day, watching Netflix all day and playing games all day. But I'm saying going from loving playing games to not playing a game at all. I remember, I think it was FIFA 20. I think I played twice when I used to play every day. So, you need to find a balance. But to cut a long story short, I decided to do something that I love. And that's going to make me feel good. That's going to make me laugh and take my mind off of that mental state we talk about in the first part of this video. So I started with GTA 5 because I needed to do some crazy stuff and just drive around and, not think about anything. And that made me laugh. And then I moved on to playing FIFA because I love football or soccer if you're in the US. And I played some FIFA and that made me feel really, really good. So at this stage, I was already miles away from the mental state I was in when the U-turn episode happened. I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't have to go and run a marathon, although I could have. I mean, to be honest, it was raining today. So otherwise, I might have gone out. Gone at the beach or just walk by. Now, I know if you're in a lockdown, maybe you cannot go outside. Well, I didn't go outside today. And like I said, I didn't have to do crazy stuff. Just watch a bunch of YouTube videos that made me laugh. And then I played some video games. Okay. I did watch some Netflix shows. I did watch a couple of episodes. So yeah, I spent a few hours today doing something else. But the truth is, it completely changed my mindset. And that's why you're watching this video today, because otherwise I wouldn't have published a video. I was way too furious, angry, and I didn't feel right. That happens. And I didn't want to create a video. But then when my mental state changed, then I had this idea. And actually, I picked the idea from one of the Netflix shows I was watching. And that's going to bring me to point number 3. Expand your horizons. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you're a web designer and all you do to try to beat creative block is to go watch web design inspiration websites, like I said, if you're in the wrong mental state, that's not going to help. Maybe you need to look at something else and expand your horizons. And I got this idea. I thought, okay, let me go and watch some of the best interior designers. And man, the solution was right there. I was only 5 minutes in my research and I landed on an interior designer with an outstanding work. And one of the homes she decorated actually gave me the idea for that website design that I was trying to solve. Like I said, I wanted to allocate part of the day to work on that web design. And I had wasted a lot of time, first of all, with the U-turn episode and going to the post office, then with trying to beat the creative block and playing some games and watching some YouTube and Netflix. So most of the day had gone already. So there was no way I could do both a video and then get some creative juices to work on website design. But I got this idea instantly. Now, I'm not saying it always happens like that. It's not a magical thing. I'm not saying that you just complete these 3 steps and magically everything is going to be all right. I'm not saying that. It could take 5 minutes, it could take 5 hours, maybe 5 days, but eventually you will get out of it. Because creative block, the truth is you could spend 2 months in it, and if you do that for a living, you probably don't have 2 months to spend on a project. But in this case, it worked in just a few minutes. So to cut a long story short, I got an idea from just doing that. And actually, in just a few minutes, I got what would have taken me hours if I was not in a creative mental state. Now, in my case, I looked at the interior designers, but you could be looking just at a movie. You could be listening to a song, to your favorite album. Maybe you can go into a museum and just check some of the best painters from your local area, or maybe just look at famous painters' work. The idea here is that you really need to get out of your comfort zone and just expand your horizons. Now, I'd be interested to know, how often do you get creative block and how long does it take you usually to get out of it? Please let me know in the comments, because I'd really like to know and compare if we all experience the same thing or if it's very different. Now, like I said earlier on in this video, if you want me to create a video just about that, please let me know in the comments. But in the meantime, if you just want some inspiration for your next project, make sure you take a look at my inspiration playlist. And even better, you can click right now on the video appearing on screen so that you get top-notch inspiration for your website design.